All right, so Desparius, glad to get you on. Are you familiar with the segment?
I hope so.
Okay,
I watch all your videos on your
okay,
second channel actually.
yeah.
So
Well,
I
thank you.
think I'm ready for this.
So this is totally random questions. So I take a magazine, and
Yeah, yeah,
I rephrase questions that are used. This particular article is talking about all the things we learned from quarantine, all the things we've learned from kind of the silver linings that we've learned from everybody having a really unpredictable year. And so the
absolutely.
first thing that they said was we now have a better realization of what it would take to fix environmental concerns. I think Shadowbringers has taught us a lot about what we want the game to be. It overwhelmingly
Yeah,
is received as positive, but it is not flawless. And
absolutely.
I know that you've had some opinions on systems like PvP. Where do you feel with Endwalkers we've learned what's still missing in the formula?
Yeah, I would say that first and foremost the format is the problem. So yeah, I don't feel like having the exact format that I'm looking for, like 2v2 or 3v3 engagement, where you really have to get into the gritty details of PvP engagement. Where, for example, in WoW, let's call it call it out like it is.
Yep.
In WoW, you really have to fine tune every little step you're doing, and I guess when you're playing 10v10 or more than that, which some of the battlegrounds are actually yeah, constructed with, I think it's difficult to really stand out and make this PvP system work like it could work actually, because I think remembering, I don't know if you played a bit PvP in Heavensward,
I did.
where yeah, I think this was more like a solution that I guess Square could have established onwards with, and could have improved, because it's more like this strategical element of Final Fantasy games, this turn-based combat style, which was way more focused there, because yeah, you really had to make timings, and actually it really feels like Shadowlands at the moment. Shadowlands does feel like you have to line up everything correctly and throw out everything into that one spot, one situation, 2 seconds. I literally die, even on 2K rating, I die in 2 seconds. Can be pumped up like crazy, having 50k health, which is quite high. I can have mitigation tools. It doesn't help. Sometimes you just get destroyed in 2 or 3 seconds.
I'm looking
And
forward to diving into that. The PvP in Shadowlands is not something I've spent a lot of time with yet.
yeah, it's not like that it's the perfect system right now, but it just looks like yeah, I played my machinist and my bard in Heavensward, which were really focused on lining up all your buffs and all your cooldowns into this one-shotting, into this yeah, getting down your enemy before the healer actually can get into the situation and rescue him. So, yeah, that was kind of the only way I think that is possible for Final Fantasy, because of that heavy lag issue, that heavy delay, especially in melee combat, where you really have to. I don't know. I'm always running behind people, and I don't know where they actually are at that moment when I'm running after them. It's just like you kind of have to get used to this feeling of he may be one meter away from me, but I'm still able to hit him, and that's really crazy right now. And yeah, I think lining stuff up and being more strategical, that could be the optimal solution for this system to yeah, establish itself.
Do you think the changes they've announced through the showcase, that we're moving to like a smaller format, will help them kind of tune some of that, or that's not addressing anything structurally?
I would say they are looking into it, because they're definitely aware of the fact that the community of PvP is literally dead in Final Fantasy, or at least yeah,
Small.
nobody
Yeah.
is really actively participating, because you actually cannot. I just tried filming some footage for many videos already, and it never went perfectly fine. I couldn't get into a battleground, or when I just joined, then it was this, I don't remember the name actually, where you have these tanks and these mechs and all that stuff that you fight against and that you board on, and
That rival
it's
wings.
crazy. Yeah, rival wings, right? And I don't consider this as a battleground in the style of I want to play with my character against others. That's what I always hated in WoW as well. This Isle of Conquest or all these battlegrounds where you take engines, move into engines and blast enemy walls with it. It's not what I want to do with my character when I'm not going into that siege engine and want to destroy walls or anything.
They do feel very like Mario Party-esque. I was fighting a rogue for like a minute and a half, and he got the jump on me, and then he killed me, and like literally took one step forward, and a tank round just finished him off. And like I just died laughing, but like that's not like real content. It's not like I was banking on that tank. It's very much like a custom mode that's meant to kind of make you laugh and make you smile, not meant to like challenge you at being better at your character. So the next question is they talk about shifts in leadership. They talk about they're talking specifically about some of the female leaders that have come into prominence through all of this. Obviously in the world we've looked a lot to our leaders for like how do we move forward. In the gaming space, you know, the devs are kind of held supreme and held responsible if the content's not received well. But the next step down is content creators. The next step down is that's the people that we blame for spreading toxicity in the community, spreading good information in the community, good guides, things like that. Expansion years are an exciting time for new content creators or for people who've been trying it out for the last few years to suddenly see huge waves of growth and really see either Twitch or YouTube or wherever they are get a lot more attention. What advice do you give out to somebody that is just starting to make a push or is just starting to get into content creation for Final Fantasy XIV?
Ooh, that's a very, very difficult question, but I always reply with this. Final Fantasy XIV is one prime example of a game where I think we have so many different kinds of content and types of content that are definitely not explored to the point where it's actually where they should be explored. So, like, I think housing, for example, this is such a vast topic in this game, and you can be so ultimately creative, and whatever you produce as a content creator or what you showcase to your audience is definitely something else that another one would do. You wouldn't have the same walls, the same windows. Everybody would do another thing. And I guess the variety of content is scaling with the actual implementation of this creativity in 14. I think about when I make WoW videos or consider doing WoW videos, it's so stupid when I look at my character and I think, how could I get him into a certain spotlight? So there is no cutscene or whatsoever where I'm actually implemented as character. So how can I showcase this or make it a cool look, give this cinematic experience or something? And this is what Final Fantasy XIV is perfectly offering. I think this, as far as I know, this is the best game where you can have a self-made character that is actually featured in so many cutscenes where you can actually produce this image to your audience that your character is actually part of the story and that you show them that it's having any impact on the actual world. And that is really nice in 14, and I think that presents everything, every content into that spotlight, and actually every content gets cool by the looks of it. That's really what I think 14 is outstanding with. And yeah, being creative. What do you think is missing on the community? Like you were talking about this annoying Reddit post where every content creator was trash, and I was like, yeah, I don't know if everybody's trash. We're actually having so many great content creators. I think there are so many creative people around, and yeah, if you got a video that is being talked about 3 or 4 times by 10 different people, of course it does look like we have nothing else to do. But yeah, maybe something, the topic is actually important, so we have to talk about it. And I really think yeah, content reproduces itself and causes itself to be relevant.
I I think that's a deep answer, followed with a couple solid
I'm sorry.
suggestions. No, I think it's good. I think there's a lot to unpack, and you know, you'll see people say like, I'm gonna be the person that just introduces people to the UI, and like the UI is menus on menus on menus, showing all the different ways you can.
Yeah.
Like I forget about it because it's been years since I set them up, but when I change my job, it changes my HUD layout, it handles certain aspects of like turning my headpiece on and off, because I've not liked certain hats. Before you could link glamour plates, now you can. Like there's all these things that my UI does, and somebody's like, I'm gonna be that guy, or somebody's like, I'm gonna be the PvP specifically guy. And you know, it is a topic. Like, it is something that's not fully explored. I think you're going to have a trouble making content with the fact that you're going to have to wait, depending on your time slot, you could have to wait hours for a round. But there's cosmetics is definitely a big system. We just went through a bit of drama with the roleplay community, and the reason that is important is because this game does actively support them. This game does have
Indeed, yeah.
It does have a lot. I mean, I feel like we get new housing items every patch for the fact that I just did my first round of Housing Savage. I don't know if you've ever tried clicking a placard for 6 hours, but I did not get the house.
I was kind of lucky. I just got back into the game where this auto demolition feature was being reintroduced, and
Sure.
I think I was really lucky just going around the plots and actually, I think I was looking for a good background for my screenshots, for my thumbnails or anything. And I was just, oh, there's a free slot. Okay, maybe I will just buy a personal house. When I realized actually that this was on the same area where our free company house has already been. So that was perfectly fine. And now I'm in the neighborhood of my free company house, which is, perfectly fine. I'm really lucky with this. I understand
love to.
the problem.
Yeah, I would love to be moved into the same area as my free company house. I think step one is get a house, because my understanding is once you have one, the transfers are really easy. And so even if I have one far away, get it. And so I'm trying, but it may never happen. So the next question is they talk about college admission being kind of broken. I don't know if that's the case over in the EU, but here in the US, like, I think this system taught us a lot about the way we handle education, the way we fund education. It creates a lot of burdens, and it becomes a big political issue here because we really can't all seem to agree on how it needs to play out. I think a lot of people agree it can be better. We just disagree with how to get there. And so similarly, I think in 14, story is taking a drastic shift with the next expansion. We are actually ending a story during the initial delivery, and then we're starting a new one with 6.1 moving forward. I assume that's to help fix the fact that a new player is having to do more and more and more content to get in. How do you think we make this game more approachable to new players while making it more rewarding to existing players?
Yeah, I think that is the actual only solution, that they're actually ending the whole story arc of Realm Reborn, or even before Realm Reborn, when in 1.0 I think things of that started already. And to make it actually accessible for new players, I guess that you can't require, or you can't demand them that they have to play this whole story arc until 6.0 when they got into the game, and then being told that it's actually over. So we're actually not dealing with Ascians. Who are Ascians? What the heck? So maybe they will have some new method. Like, I hate to make this comparison, but in WoW they had everything rounded up with Cataclysm, so the world has been shaken and shattered. So they used this storytelling of reintroducing the leveling system and revamping, making it much more concise and reducing the complexity and stuff. So I hope that Square takes that kinda idea, while also making this whole storytelling kind of still possible to achieve, or to watch at this book, or with the new game plus feature, because it's great. I think I would consider Final Fantasy XIV as my top 5 Final Fantasies of all time. And to be honest, one of my absolute favorites of storytelling of all games that I played so far.
I think that's a big compliment that it gets. I think that's like saying, I mean, oftentimes the book can expose more detail than a movie when we look at other narrative franchises. And that's like saying that one of the new movies delivered better than the books. It's quite a compliment, because an MMO is usually seen as the lighter of the formats. An MMO is usually seen as the dessert, right? It's never going to be as satisfying as the main meal. And 14 has moved into a light where like it's actually kind of paving the way forward on how storytelling can be.
Absolutely, yeah.
So inviting people in is really the question. We don't want to lose what we have, but you can't keep asking a new player to do 500 hours and then 600 hours and then 700 hours and then 800 hours. Like at some point it becomes too big of an ask if it's not already there. So it's an interesting topic that I think they're tackling with the next expansion. So from here we begin asking the purpose of the police. Once again, like worldwide, this can be handled a variety of ways, but here in the U.S. we've had a lot of tension with what our relationship and what the job and the role and how they're funded and how that's all processed. We recently had, I don't know if you're totally aware of all of the drama that's erupted around things like GMs and terms of service, but in this game, like terms of service, everything from do we allow DPS meters to are all parts of the community treated equal, it feels sometimes very frustrating that Final Fantasy is being governed by a group that doesn't necessarily set itself entirely by our feedback. How do you come to terms with things like DPS meters, like add-ons, doing things that are against terms of service, but not exactly enforced?
Yeah, I would say that it's like you have started this the whole political thing. You can compare this actually, because I think every environment, every society, every game, and if you compare a society and game society with each other, you have to have this frame and this framework that kind of establish some rules, some basic rules that everybody has to stick to. And I think these are so important, especially for a game where harassment is a thing and where people are considering themselves as superior to others. And that we have to take these facts as rules and we have to stick to them. That's really important. But as far as something like the advanced combat tracker, it doesn't break those rules, to be honest. It's not hurting. It's by the nature of advanced combat tracker itself, it's not hurting anybody's experience or anything. But if people are taking this to annoy people, then these rules should go into this and actually punish those people for breaking the rules and for harming others. And it's funny because I don't know why and how. I think it's the stupid YouTube algorithm that always keeps us entertained and tries to push out videos that we never heard from, but seem to be interesting for us, for our personality. I just stumbled over somebody that's called Crusader in World of Warcraft, who's a very, very toxic streamer. He's playing PvP and he's just being rude. He's just blaming others, and he's really, really a bad example for how I would think this should never be a role model for any community and nobody that anybody should look up for, because we're living in a society, we're living in a world where we have to stick to rules and at least to philosophical aspects that make human interaction possible and actually very enjoyable. And I want to not lose this comfort and this interaction with others by blaming people or by not sticking to those rules that are kind of, I think everybody learns as a child from whoever. Rules are important.
Yes. The DPS meter brings up a lot of complaints. People are worried that it comes in and breathes toxicity. I think I agree with you that the tool itself is just a tool. I plan on using it once a week now on Tuesdays to start improving across all the tanks, because it allows for me to plug the data it collects into a website called XIV Analysis that, you know, I'm sure the people on the Balance Discord or you may know a couple areas that XIV Analysis, depending on the patch cycle, isn't perfect for every single job. But, like, I'm trying to get over that initial hump. I'm trying to get to where I'm just performing at a decent level. And so it's saying, hey, you know, we can all agree that if you have a dot, you want that dot on them at all times. And so, like, it's just saying, hey, you know, your dot's only on them 50% of the time. Like, that's really helpful, because keeping it 100% uptime on a dummy is very different than keeping it 100% uptime in something like Eden, or, you know, where you're having to move and you're having to react, and where somebody else drags a bomb into you mid-rotation in some types of content where, like, you're not even moving to the mechanics. You know, you're having to move differently because of a choice another player made. It can make each run kind of unique, and that can really screw with you, especially if you're not already perfect at your rotation.
Yeah, and that's actually the best example of why I do these rotation videos, these power test videos, for example, because they are really isolated, showing that, yeah, this is the possible number that you could put out with certain job, and if you're having a kinda close to the optimal rotation, and yeah, everything else, the encounter itself, movement, that these are other aspects that come onto this. And I think always when you learn the basics and you get this done in this isolated room, in this isolated environment, it will grant you a big advantage when then applying this knowledge that you earned there into this encounter and improve this. But if you go this the other way around, I think it's much more difficult, because moving around and then worrying about what did this rotation actually offer for me? I don't know. What is the idea behind this rotation? What I'm actually supposed to do with this job? Do I need to cast a Ver Thunder 5 seconds in a combat? Maybe not. It doesn't look right. But yeah, I think you have to learn this rotation, or you don't have to learn this in an isolated room, but it's definitely an advantage if you get it done before actually fighting this encounter and don't have a single clue about your rotation.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to getting better at being a better player. I think I'm more than good enough to get through normal content. I think that's another area that's a separate rub. We have people who are performing at Savage Extreme Ultimate levels. They know their stuff. And we have people who there are literally abilities missing on their bar. You ask them to do something like Limit Break. You ask them about an ability that maybe doesn't unlock until they've made it to level 80, or is locked behind the very last job quest, which they never got around to doing. And
I used to be such a guy.
you ask them, and you know, I think there is somewhere in between where you've got all your abilities and you're trying, and normal content is clearable very, very low. It's very, very reasonable. I've been in level 50 content. I've been in level 60 content with people who don't have a job stone. Depending on the job, you can still clear it.
Absolutely.
You know, you can clear it with a class. And so I think people get very, very frustrated, but instead of aiming for perfection, like using these tools, I really just want to use them to get over, like, not being awful. Like, I'm not trying
that's
to get
exactly
to max.
what I try to help with. Yeah.
Just not awful.
Yeah.
So they talk about from here a new generation of star athletes, obviously with things like professional sports, forms of entertainment, us all staying home for a year, it has changed our relationship. We just had news that the Ultimate, I mean, effectively got cut from this expansion. They delayed it in the next expansion, but we would have gotten an Ultimate early next expansion regardless. We just know now that Ultimate is this. So unless there's now 3 Ultimates next expansion, we are now out 1 Ultimate within Final Fantasy history. How do you think that feels? What does that do for the small percentage of players that do an Ultimate? I think of Ultimate more as a community event, unless it's something I do, but how does that work for people that you think are truly, like, playing at that top level?
Yeah, I think it's really frustrating, actually, because they were expecting this kind of content to be part of Shadowbringers, the second Ultimate fight that should be introduced, but yeah, as far as I know, and from my personal experience, it's really not healthy to focus on this one game alone. It's really, that is the most, yeah, the most difference, or the biggest difference between real sports and esports is that you can easily shift into something else, into another game. If you're a professional soccer player, I guess you won't be a professional ballet dancer in the next couple of minutes. So there are really some different skills that you need to learn. And of course, if you compare this, I'm an esports gamer playing shooters all day, and then I switch to I don't know, strategic real-time games or anything like that. It could be something that you have to get used to for a certain amount of time, but switching this is really not as problematic as doing this with physical sports, actually, where you have to learn physical skills with your body, that you have to train. You actually have to get your muscles ready for this. I think a soccer player cannot do these pirouettes and all that stuff that a ballet dancer is doing or something. But I guess that always when you have this content drought, you have to look at this for yourself and take it with a healthy point of view and just play something else. Really, I know it's this sentence that Yoshi is always replying, but yeah, it's true. It's true. You have to take your time seriously and enjoy your time, enjoy your free time, and not play the game like you have to. It's really not a job for most of the people that are playing the game.
Yeah, I think that's a healthy attitude to go in. It can feel very frustrating when you like something and you ask for more and it's just not there, and they tell you to go somewhere else. That can feel, it can come across as disrespectful pretty quick, but I don't think it's meant to be. I think it's just, like, gaming is a big space, and I think 14 devs are encouraged heavily to be heavily involved in 14, but they are also encouraged to play other games. They play WoW, they play Guild Wars, they play ESO, they play single player games. They play adjacent genres, things like action RPGs. I know Diablo is a game that Yoshi P has a huge crush on. He talks about
we all have.
He likes he has really enjoyed some of the Diablo content over the years. So I have to wonder what his reaction was to Diablo 2 coming out this year, and the state of Diablo 4. How excited he is just as a gamer. You know, he doesn't make those views like horribly public, but they come up in interviews from time to time. It's an exciting time to be a gamer. It's an exciting time to be in this community. But I think the ultimate news was a bit of a hit. So, you know, I hope those players are able to find somewhere to land that can kind of satisfy that. We already only get 2 ultimates per expansion, so dropping to 1 during this expansion, I think that's a big gap. I mean, Savage just isn't ultimate. It's just not. Like, ultimate is insanity.
And even that, if you take that into consideration, this ultimate content, even for the mediocre player that is at least trying this content and maybe at some point completing this content, we're talking about 1-3 months that you spend for this content, and we're talking about the lifespan of an expansion that is 2 years. So yeah, it cannot fill this completely. So you sometimes have to daggle some other content, some other ideas and ways of playing 14 or playing other games. I think that is the most healthy way of taking content as it is, because it cannot fill your 24/7 life cycle.
Right.
And it shouldn't. It's not healthy to look at this, I think.
Well, that's it. We hit the end of the interview. So that means that's the end of this one. So where can people find you? When are you live? Where is your content?
Most of my content is on YouTube. I think that is where I'm constantly uploading, and I'm having this more streamlined schedule. But on Twitch, I'm always trying to be more active on Twitch, because I'm just doing these Mondays, and I cannot even tell you an exact timing. And it's always Monday. I'm always trying to do this Monday, and I think at least when Endwalker hits, I'm going to to let's call it. I want to try a no life relation with this game. Once in a lifetime. Trying to get all my job guides out as soon as possible and help people in getting into these trials, these savage contents as fast as possible.
It's a big goal. That's a big goal. We're making it bigger. We're getting 2 new ones, and so you won't even be able to prepare for those.
Okay.
Very good. Well, thank you.